Good afternoon. My name is Lee Shaw, and I'm a law enforcement and fire service chaplain here in the city and county of Napa. And like you, I've wept quite a few times this last week. Before I go any further, I definitely want to thank Andrea Coe and Mrs. A for their music. Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have a live feed going on right now at the Little Theater, and there's speakers outside also for the overflow crowd. And we're going to do something a little different this afternoon. What I want you to do right now is, would you please stand if you attended the candlelight vigil? Would you please stand? Go ahead. Okay, just a few of you. Would you please stand if you attended the procession that brought Elena from Thousand Oaks, okay, all right, into Tulocay? Would you please stand if you participated in the Heroes March? If you're already standing, then you can raise your hand. Okay, good, all right. And then would you please stand if you attended the graveside service for Elena on Thursday morning? Okay. Would you please stand if you attended her service Thursday afternoon at St. A's? Okay. The reason I ask you to do that is I want you to just kind of look around for a moment, and I want you to see what one individual, one family, how they can impact our world. And this is a really beautiful thing for us and for you. And I know on behalf of the Housley family, they are truly grateful for your presence and for you coming here to honor Elena. And before you're seated, to continue the voice of Elena and the tradition started by Eric and Adam, that whole concept of love for one another and kindness and taking time to be in the moment. I want you to walk over to someone that you don't know, look them in the eye, shake their hand, and get to know them. Go ahead, go. Okay, guys. Before you're seated, if you'd please remain standing. Just please remain standing for just a moment. I just want to lead us, before we're seated, in a word of prayer at this time, please. Father, we are brokenhearted, but we're thankful for a precious little girl that has grown up to be a beautiful lady. And we thank you for the gift that Elena was to her family and to this community. And we ask your blessing on especially her family right now, as we know they suffer the greatest loss, and also her friends and this entire community. And so, Father, I ask your very best and your blessing on this time as we seek to honor Alaina Maria Housley. In your son's precious name I pray. Amen. You may be seated. You know, Yogi Berra wasn't a soccer player, of course, like Elena was, but he was admired as a professional baseball player for the Yankees. He was also beloved as an American original because of his unique yogiisms. Some of you have heard of those. But one of his best yogiisms once stated, he said, "It's like deja vu all over again." What a crazy guy. But I must say, it really is deja vu all over again, because just a little over a year ago, we were in this same gymnasium to honor the Horn family. And what a tragedy that was. And something I would like to do in regarding the Horn family, of course, there was Daryl and Joe and Troy and Baden. And Jared Horn survived that tragic accident. But in light of the Horn family, as well as the 11 other individuals that were killed on that fateful night, November the 7th, as well as the 18 that were wounded that evening, in light of those individuals, and I want to make special mention of Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant Ron Helis, and who ran into this challenge, to say the least, to save lives, and he lost his life. And in light of those individual, and Sergeant Helis, at the time of the incident, he was speaking with his wife on the phone, and he said to her, quote, "Hey, I got to go handle a call. I love you." And those were his last words to his beloved wife. And to show our honor and respect, I want to just have a moment of silence for these individuals. So if you join with me at this moment for just a few minutes, just a small moment, to respect and honor them at this time. Thank you, Father, for your grace. Also, I'd like to just take a moment to honor someone here from Ventura County Sheriff Department, Chief Tim Hagel. Tim, please stand. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. It's all the way from Ventura County. And also, I just want to acknowledge our first responders here in this room, Napa Police Department and Napa County Sheriff Department, and also Chief Oscar Ortiz, who responded down to pick up Elena, as well as Sergeant Alfonso Ortiz that drove her up here. I want to honor those folks. So let's give those guys a big hand. So at this time, we have a special presentation from the Vintage High School Choir and alum under the direction of Mark Teeters, director of their choral music. So Mark, please. What a great choir, huh? Yeah. That song was written by Matt Marr, and a great song, very meaningful. Of course, you know we're here to honor Alaina Maria Housley, and she was 18 years old, bless her heart, and she was a precious gift to Eric and Hannah. On July 27th, 2000. And it's been stated that she was the perfect little baby. And of course, her family, there's Eric, her mom and dad, Eric and Hannah, Alex, her beloved brother, and her grandparents, Art and Judy Housley, who are all sitting up here in this area. And there was also her grandparents, of course, Art and Judy, and Ernesto and Letitia Punzelin, and her aunts and uncles, Adam and Tamara Housley. She had about 14 million aunts and uncles. There's Letitia and Matt Tapia, and Teresa and John Macus, and her cousins, Morea and Zach Macus, and Sarah and Isabel and Eben, and Eben Tapia, and Aiden and Araya Housley. And her education, of course, she was studying there at Pepperdine, and I used to live in Southern California, and I always heard about Pepperdine, and so because of Elena, I decided to do a little research, and I just fell in love with that college. What a great school. And it turns out that Adam and Tamara both attended Pepperdine University, as well as Eric and Hannah, and that's where they met. And so we're going to blame it on Pepperdine University for this whole thing. And it was founded by a man by the name of George Pepperdine, of course, and he was an alumnus of Parsons Business College there in Kansas, and he was a man of deep Christian faith, and he was a lifelong member of the Churches of Christ, and Pepperdine had always exercised, as a man, the spirit of generosity and charity. He was a very giving man, and he cared about the young people of our country during those days. And he wanted to raise the academic standards, of course, at that time. And each September on Founders Day, because it was founded in, I think it was 1937, but on September 21st, the Founders Day, what they do on that particular day is they reiterate to themselves and dedicate themselves to George Pepperdine's motto for that college. And he said, "I'm endowing this institution to help young men and women to prepare for a life of usefulness in this competitive world and help them build a foundation of Christian character and faith," listen carefully, "which will survive the storms of life." That's the college that she went to. That was their heart. That was the reason that that college exists, is to help young people survive the storms of life. The storms of life. Of course, her accomplishments, she was an academic scholar, accomplished musician and singer. She was a student leader, of course. Athlete, extraordinary daughter, sister, granddaughter, niece, cousin, and beloved friend. And it always impresses upon me what I want to know is their character qualities. That's the most important part about our lives and your life, is your character qualities. And so Elaine has been described as passionate, thoughtful, intelligent, musically talented, avid reader, storyteller, literal and logical, because she was a young lady who wanted to make sense out of things. She was determined, compliant, funny, beautiful, and her beloved godmother described her most important character as being just like her mama. She had a wicked love for chocolate. And Tracy Cargill said that she was a chocolate on chocolate kind of girl, and there was never too much of chocolate. At this time, the families asked some of her beloved family and friends to speak and to share a little bit about Elena. And so at this time, I'm going to invite Kelsey Bridewell to come forward. She's a Vintage High School alum and former ASB student and, of course, family friend. So, Kelsey?
Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here today. Although it isn't surprising just how many people there are here, because Elena was just the most kind and genuine person, it really is truly incredible to see just how many lives she and her family have touched. So thank you. As we all well know, Elena was one of a kind. She was kind and gracious, just like her mother. She was humble, yet witty, much like her father. Excuse me. She drew strength from her family by being a strong, yet stern big sister. Elena was the type to always be around. Whether you needed a friend or a hug, she gave the best hugs. Although they were kind of awkward because she had these long arms, because she's this tall girl. When you hugged her, you could immediately feel her love and happiness. I was fortunate enough to be one of the oldest of what I'd like to call my extended family. And I've been given the great privilege to have watched Elena grow up. When we were kids, she was the creative one. She'd come up with the funniest games to play and the best skits to perform for our parents. For some reason, when we were all together, that was one of our favorite things to do. But one of my favorite ideas of Elena's came on a night when both of our families had had dinner together, but we hadn't had dessert yet. So we came up with the idea to go get Cold Stone ice cream. And she thought we could persuade Eric into taking us. Needless to say, we couldn't just ask Eric to take us because that would be much too simple. So we came up with a chant for some reason, and it went like this. Cold Stone, we're on our way. Cold Stone, Eric has to pay. I remember laughing with her for hours about that. We thought we were the smartest, funniest people around for getting her dad to buy us something so simple as ice cream. However, Elena actually was one of the smartest people I've ever known. I used to love hearing Hannah talk about the newest activity Elena was involved in. She was so talented. What I admire most about Elena is that she wasn't afraid to try new things. When she joined choir her senior year of high school, she didn't just join choir. She auditioned for both concert and chamber choir. Along the way, she also secured a spot in the school musical. That took bravery, and Elena certainly wasn't lacking in that. Memories of her zest for life will continue to inspire me to live a life of adventure as well. I believe she was the person that was going to change the world one day. Elena was going to study abroad in Florence, Italy next year, and I knew through that adventure of self-discovery, she would have the opportunity to share her kind personality with more of the world and inspire others to be thoughtful and loving just like her. Devastatingly, she no longer gets that opportunity. However, I ask all of you to use her memory as an inspiration for change in all of our lives. Although she can't physically be here with us, I believe that with Elena's voice, we can honor her memory by choosing kindness and love every day. Elena, like myself, was an avid Harry Potter fan, so I'd like to leave you with this quote by Albus Dumbledore in The Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living, and above all, those who live without love. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you. I really like that motto about having Eric pay for ice cream, so afterwards we're going to all join in for some ice cream on behalf of Eric. At this time, we have two individuals we want to bring up at the same time. Jen Castellazzo, family friend and teacher here at Vintage High School, as well as the beloved Sarah O'Connor, Vintage High School principal. Ladies.
It's intimidating. Hi there. Many of you know me as a teacher here at Vintage, but I'm also a mom. And I'm a mom in a small group of friends who think of each other's children as their own. And I'm sure that there are plenty of parents out there who also feel part of a similar group. Elena and Alex are two of these children, and I wanted to share a memory that will forever stay with me. Around this time a year ago, my family was missing a piece of our own puzzle. Maddie, our daughter, was starting her freshman year at college, and she was missing us, and we were missing her. And when the Napa fires forced evacuations, the Housleys stayed with us. And Elena literally filled the recent vacancy in our house. I would walk down the hallway, and I would see Elena propped up in Maddie's bed with sun shining through the smoky haze, wearing a t-shirt she rummaged out of the drawers and reading a book that she grabbed off of Maddie's shelf. For those few days, it was reassuring. Seeing that precious girl reading a book in that room, our family puzzle seemed complete. Displaced and with almost no possessions, Elena somehow made me feel better. And with her grace and her easygoing nature, Elena was the perfect missing piece. But I really did, so that's just me. I really wanted to stand up here also today to share another way a lot of us knew Elena, so as a dedicated student. So can you raise your hand if you were a teacher of Elena's? If you were an elementary, a middle school, a high school, a college teacher, if you were a coach to Elena, a CCD teacher, a piano teacher, a violin teacher, please raise them and keep them up. Thank you. All right, now keep them up. How about raise your hand if you were ever in a class with her? How about if you were in leadership class with Housley at the helm? Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for being here today. Elena was in my class for 2 years in a row, and not because she failed the first one. Elena took freshman year chemistry and then chose to take on the challenge of AP Chem as a sophomore, which comes as no surprise. Elena had a true love for learning. She may not have been excited about every topic, I know that for sure, but she also showed a determination to understand any concept and was fiercely dedicated to her education. Ask any of those who raised their hands earlier. Elena was one of Vintage's top academic performers. And it's not that she just got good grades. She was a scholar. Outside the classroom, people say that Elena could talk your ear off. But the consensus among teachers, and I did talk with many, was that it was somewhat different. She was a listener. She was an observer. She actually was pretty quiet. So when Elena spoke up, as a teacher, you knew it was because she had something significant to say. Whether it was to clarify the difference between socialism or communism in Mr. Reich's class, or to correct a math error that someone made on the whiteboard, or to use her voice and violin to help a lesser experienced musician learn their part in orchestra class. Elena demanded excellence for herself, and she expected excellence from her teachers. Elena also connected with her teachers on a personal level. During Teacher Appreciation Week, the ASB leadership students would make inspirational posters for each staff member. And so to honor her today, they made posters for her. Elena, I hope you like the posters. We did redo a couple of those posters, so I really hope she enjoys them. But one time, Elena made my poster, and she was very excited to give it to me. When she unrolled it and tacked it on my wall, she said, "Don't you like it?" And I replied, "Of course, but I don't understand it." She wrote in mine in Tagalog, because I'm half Filipino, just like she is. And of course, Elena knew Tagalog, or at least she looked some phrases up. And of course, I don't know any Tagalog. But her intentions were clear: to connect with people she was around. Book talks with Miss Poyser was a fun time for Elena. I hope it is for some of you out there too. But it is Mrs. Poyser's crazy socks that she was truly fond of. So much so that Elena bought a pair of socks from Canada with multicolored maple leaves. Just the right amount of goofy that she knew Miss Poyser would like. And can you tell that Elena liked quotes? Just look around. Well, for the entire senior year in AP Lit, Elena decided to keep a running list of ridiculous quotes from class. Comments from her, from Mr. Thomas, from classmates. Many of them inside jokes, always hysterical, sometimes profane, preferably both. Not only did she write them down, but she made a slideshow with them, and she sent them to Mr. Thomas. He said the quotes captured not only the comical, intellectual wonder and beauty of that particular class, but also Elena's divine foresight to capture those moments for some unforeseeable future. Did I mention that Elena liked books? Mr. Anderson told me that Elena was part of the first book club, and she thought the group should not be elitist nor exclusive. Listening to others and their ideas was important to her, and she loved to debate. However, when they discussed ideas for a t-shirt for the club and for club members, her preferred motto was, "It's book club, get the hell out." It's such a contradiction, but it's so Elena. Scholar, teammate, friend, leader, high school is one big puzzle, and Elena was several important pieces that made our vintage high picture complete. The relationship between student and teacher can be a special one, and people always say that you never know how much of an impact a teacher can make on the life of a student. But you know what? Many, many times, it's the opposite. Students like Elena make us want to be better at what we do. And the entire Crusher community of teachers will keep her voice alive in the stories we tell the next group of students. When they hear a vintage teacher start a story with, "Hey, there was an amazing young woman in my class," most likely that story will be about Elena.
Good afternoon. I may be the principal of Vintage High School right now, but during Elena's 4 years at Vintage High, I was an assistant principal. And I'll tell you, capturing stories as a teacher and having fond memories is something that one really hopes in the profession. I think we can all say that it's not a goal to spend enough time in the assistant principal's office, that there are extensive stories to tell. That said, Elena is an exception. My formal introduction to Elena was through the infamous Vintage Campus Tours group. This is the group of students who represents Vintage to prospective students and their parents. My first 2 years doing this, I must admit, I didn't always have my ducks in a row. Did I write the call slips for the students to be excused from fourth period? Do the teachers know that we're coming to visit their classroom today? I came to find out that Elena was the one checking in with my administrative assistant and reaching out to students. It turns out that often Elena was just covering my butt, which was great. This adult responsibility of Elena's, though, much like her mother, is really balanced with a sense of calm. A terrifying leadership moment of my own vintage life was at the end of one of our rallies when we intended to invite the crowd down to the gym floor for a big line dance. I was so worried something was going to go sideways. Elena nonchalantly said, "Don't worry, Mr. Pearson's not even here." Easy for her to say when it was not her butt on the line, right? I saw a very different Elena when she ran into my office panicked one day. She had lost her Chromebook on campus. She was freaking out. Her parents were out of town. She was beside herself. She was going on and on about punishments and consequences and what was going to happen. I said, "Elena, first of all, it's a Chromebook. These have never been stolen. Second of all, we're still at school. It's fine." I made an all call over the PA. We got Elena's Chromebook, and I also reminded her, I don't know if we were talking about the same parents, but her parents were completely incapable of the tortures that she was dreaming up. Come to think of it, Elena was in the main office quite a bit. She had a way of connecting to adults, relating to us, and engaging with us. Elena's respect for and love for her parents was constantly evident in the stories she told around the counseling office and through her thoughtful acts. Elena's surprise for Hannah's birthday one year, having all of the orchestra's violinists play happy birthday to her in the office, remains one of my favorite vintage memories. At the vigil last week, I reflected on Elena as the model crusher, the student, athlete, musician, leader, and human being that we are all raising our children to be and hoping to find in ourselves. While I firmly believe that Elena lives when we all embody her spirit, her attention to others, her discipline, her leadership for all, my time reflecting on my memories with Elena has revealed to me that it's not only in doing these things, but the importance of presence in each moment. Current vintage students, I want you to hear this. Something that made Elena different to me was that in 10th, 11th, and even 12th grade, she and her crew often stayed on campus during lunch. What a treasure to actually chat with juniors and seniors at lunch day in and day out. Their young adult maturity was a welcomed connection. Elena maximized every minute of her high school experience, in her classes, on the soccer field, in the choir or musical, in journalism and book club, and even on the quad. Any recollection that I have of Elena, any story I can recount, and probably is true for any of you, is a result of our presence in that moment with her. Perhaps she and I interacted hundreds of other times that I can't recall, because honestly, I wasn't fully there right then. Elena's gift is the intense reminder that our presence is the present. As the holiday season descends on us, as gifts, wish lists accumulate, and shopping commences, Elena reminds us that the real present, the true gift, is presence in one another's lives, in our moments together. In each of these, we truly live, and so does Elena. Thank you.
Beautiful words, ladies. Beautiful words. And at this time, we're going to ask Jessica Arnowski, who is the Vintage High School alum, former ASB leadership and family friend, as well as Ben Paulson, Vintage High School student and also a friend. So if the two of you would come forward, please.
Hi. Hi. Elena, there are so many distinct things about you that the littlest things remind me of you every day. You had an infatuation with books and learning, a passion for debate, and as we all know, an unmatched love for chocolate and coffee. You're always fashion forward. When I first met you, you had little space buns in your hair. And at your last prom, you had bright red lipstick on. Well, these memories at times make it really hard to keep going on because I keep seeing them everywhere I go. I've come to realize that they are not something to be sad about, but rather something to embrace. You're one of those people who completely changed the room when you walked into it. And I don't just mean because you always had a story to tell. Your smile and the genuine warmth of your heart had a way of lifting anyone's mood. You just have this energy, and I can still feel it. Making posters yesterday, I could hear you telling me my letters weren't straight. The other day at the 1839 game, I could hear you singing the national anthem. And every time I'm eating dessert, I can hear you asking if there's one with chocolate. While it's easy to sit and mourn your beautiful life that was taken too soon, I know that what you would want is us to get up and move not on, but move forward. To use the life and drive and the passions that you had to make a difference and make a change. You are still with us. Elena, you are a light and you will never, ever stop shining, and your voice will be heard. Thank you.
I'd like to start out today just apologizing. I know, Elena, if you were here, you'd probably take one look at me and tell me I look like an idiot for my haircut. I'm sorry. College is tough. I need to get a haircut soon. I walked into Vintage the first day of freshman year, not really knowing anybody. I didn't really have any friends to hang out with. I didn't really see anyone I recognized. And I still remember the first day, walking in before the first bell, Elena called me over. I remember all the people she was with. I remember the look on her face. And I'm just so grateful she did that. The people that she was with became my best friends. Every single thing I've been through here at Vintage, every dance, every break, every football game, every lunch, every car accident, it was all with her. Elena, that decision, the decision to call me over that day, you probably didn't even think about it. But to me, that changed my life. Thank you so much to everyone who came here. I'm so grateful to see everyone, and I know that she probably had the same impact, if not more, on you guys than she did for me. Thank you.
I think it's a good haircut, Ben. No problem, buddy, no problem. Thank you, Jessica, for those kind words. And now, Maria Teixeira, Vintage High School friend and Les Mis musical participant, and with Elena. And Jack Dinsmore at this time, please come forward.
Hello, everyone. If you didn't know Elena, she had this amazing ability to tell stories. I mean, she could talk for hours across 3 different universes and 4 timelines when you asked her how her day was. So I think it's only appropriate that I tell some of my favorite stories about her. I remember the first time I visited the Housley household. I knocked on the door and Miss Housley answered, and I walked in and I noticed Elena was in her pajamas underneath a blanket watching a Harry Potter movie marathon at 2 p.m. And it's not like I dropped by unexpectedly. She was planning on me being there, and she was still just having the time of her life underneath watching that movie. I think that's something I always valued about Elena, was her ability to just enjoy some me time when she needed it. One of the things that blew me away, that blew us all away, I imagine, was her ability to harmonize with literally anything. I think you could take her to a construction site and point at the jackhammer in the corner, and she'd find a way to harmonize with it. And not only would it sound amazing, it would sound like she'd been practicing her entire life for this moment. And I think one of my favorite stories, I thought to myself, okay, well, now I have to show her I can do something too. And so I learned the harmony to the song I Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis, and we were driving, and she put it on, and I was like, okay, here we go. I had psyched myself up. I was ready to go, and I'm singing it. I'm in my head. I'm like, all right, this is great. She can see what I can do. And then I snap out of my own head, and I listen for a second, and I realize that she's singing a better harmony than I am, and I've been practicing for 2 days. I'm like, I remember the first day she told me she got into chamber choir, and at that point I didn't really know what chamber was, which is ironic because I'm in it now. But I was like, oh, so you can sing, that's cool. That's cool, and oh, she could sing. She had one of the most amazing voices. And I think one more thing I remember was that her and I first bonded over the musical Hamilton, which was actually playing earlier. She was the first person I texted after I saw it a couple of years ago. Her, Maria, and I actually formed a group we called the Hamel Buds. And every year, the Vintage High School had a dress-up day where you're supposed to dress in your favorite band uniform, and we always dressed up in our Hamilton gear. And I'm pretty sure Elena used her pull in the Vintage Leadership class to get as much as those days as possible so we could keep taking the same picture. But I think my all-time favorite memory of Elena was once Maria, Elena, and I spent our Saturday night on Maria's couch watching bootlegged musicals on our TV. So if you weren't able to tell already, we were very cool. And if you knew Elena well, you knew when she got tired and the stars aligned and the moon was full, she sort of slipped into this loopy state where her voice got really high and she sounded like a baby. And everything seemed surreal to her. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. However, on this particular night, Maria had a can of whipped cream in her fridge. And Elena had found it right as she was reaching that baby Elena level. And it resulted with Elena singing to the bootlegged version of Mean Girls on Broadway. When her part was finished, she would fill her entire mouth with whipped cream, eat it, just in time for her to be able to sing again. And then she rinsed and repeated. I have a lot of memories of Elena, and I'm heartbroken that I won't be able to make any more with her. You know, she'll never again put me to shame with her singing or sit down at dinner and grab my hand and tell me about how we have to boycott the live version of Mulan because it won't have a soundtrack to go with it. But I find peace in the fact that, and I think you all should too, that she'll be with us from now until forever. She'll always be at our side through our failures and our accomplishments and all of our obstacles we face in life. She'll always be right there with us. And so I think that brings me some peace. So Elena, until we meet again, please keep singing in the stars. Thank you.
I'm not that tall, okay. Just gonna do it, okay.
It'll work.
We're gonna roll with it, okay.
Try that. Just go ahead and just deep breath.
Can you hear me? Cool. Alaina Housley was my best friend. Not only that, but she was one of the best people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. My freshman year of high school, I didn't really know anyone, and Elena was one of the first people to welcome me into the universe of the public school system and be my friend. We quickly bonded over our intense love for Harry Potter. I sucked her into the world of musical theater, and we were instantly inseparable. Elena was truly a once-in-a-lifetime friend. She inspired me in ways she likely didn't even realize. Her passion and energy in her day-to-day life encouraged me to love things unironically and to go about life with joy. Her natural leadership skills taught me to not be afraid to take charge in a situation, but still to be kind to others. Her amazing work ethic inspired me to always do my best work, and that I'm always capable of more than I think I am. Her artistic and musical talent blew me away each and every day. Anytime we would drive somewhere together, she would start randomly harmonizing to whatever song was playing, usually show tunes, without even realizing it. I would always look over at her, laugh, and say, "You're doing it again." And she would just say, "Damn it," laugh, and then just keep singing with that beautiful voice of hers. Elena and I went through so much together. First boyfriends, stressful AP classes and exams, 12-hour Les Mis rehearsals, learning to drive, a driving mishap that we won't get into right now. I remember the day Elena got her license. She showed up at my house to eat lunch with me just because she could. Anything and everything that was happening in my life, she was right there to cheer me on or to help me get through it. She gave the best advice. With an iced coffee or some sort of chocolate in hand, she would carefully analyze the situation and be gentle or harsh when she needed to be, and talk through anything and everything with me. As we all know, talking was her strong suit, especially when telling stories. Elena wouldn't tell you just one story. No. She would start by telling you one and then manage to tell you about
27 others in the process. I will forever miss her randomly starting to braid my hair or play with my hands because she was starting to get fidgety. I will miss her coming up behind me and giving me a hug just to say hi. I will miss her constantly taking selfies with everyone and filming everything. I will miss splitting a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream while watching 10 Things I Hate About You or Oklahoma for the millionth time. In short, there's nothing about Alaina Housley that I won't miss. While I'm angered and saddened to not get more time with her, I'm so thankful that I got to be her friend. So, Elena, Pads, Lena, wherever you are, saying I miss you doesn't even begin to describe what I'm feeling right now. But I promise to take what I'm feeling and to use it for something good. I promise to fight for you and for the 11 other people who lost their lives that night. I love you endlessly, and I hope to see you again someday. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria and Jack. Don't you just love high school kids? Yeah, baby. Aren't they great? At this time, our Vintage High School Choir and Mark Teeters want to sing Do You Hear the People Sing from Les Mis.
Hi, I'm Mrs. A. I'm the person in the back of the choir. And while they're filing on, I thought I would give you a little bit of background for our choice of Do You Hear the People Sing? As you've been listening to people speak, Elena was a very valued and wonderful member of the cast of our production of Les Miserables. For those of you who don't know the concert choir productions at Vintage, it's a class of 60 students. And everyone, while not always having a role of the same size, has an equal investment in the show and a love of the show. And the song Do You Hear the People Sing that you will hear is the close of the entire show. And it is the time when all 60 children in the cast are on stage together, singing together and putting their hearts into it. And I hope that you will join us in feeling the love and spirit of Elena and being together in spirit as we sing this song for you.
chain will be broken and all men will have their reward. Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see? Do you hear the people sing? Say, do you hear the distant drums? It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes. Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see? Do you hear the people sing? Say, do you hear the distant drums? It is the future that they bring when tomorrow comes.
Thank you, Mark and choir. Boy, choir, just what a beautiful element to our time together. Absolutely, absolutely. This time we have a few more speakers. We would like to ask at this time Kate and Annalise Housley. They're like family, of course, to the Housley family. They grew up together, vacationed together. They were very, very close. Ladies?
The other day, I was reading the notes that Elena wrote to me in my Vintage High School yearbooks. In my senior yearbook, she wrote, "I've literally never lived a day without you. Ever since she was born, she has been right beside me. The Housleys and the Houshleys form one big family of 8. When we were little, we would have family dinners together almost every night. And one of our family rules was that we couldn't leave the table until everyone was finished eating. Elena was the slowest eater. Because ever since she could talk, she wouldn't stop talking. It would take her hours to eat each meal, but we would sit at the table and talk with her while she ate. She loved milk. She would drink it with literally anything. I remember one night for dinner, she drank a glass of milk with her Chinese food. And she must have been 7 or 8 years old when she decided to dip Cheez-Its in her milk and eat them. Our family dinner tradition has continued for these 18 years, although it has become less frequent as we all got older and busier. Every time the Housleys were coming over to our house for dinner, we'd buy Elena her own half-gallon carton of milk, or she would bring one for herself. And after we finished eating dinner, all 8 of us would end up cuddled on the couch eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream and Talenti gelato. We spent every birthday together. If it was a family occasion, the Housleys are automatically invited because they are a family. A couple of years ago, Alex decided that we needed a term for our friendship that's more than just a friendship. He decided that we are friends, friend cousins. But the truth is that she was more than just a cousin. She was our other sister. We love her more than words can describe, and life without her will never be the same.
Our whole family, all 8 of us, would always make fun of Elena for her stories that never ended.
Before she left for Pepperdine, I gave her advice on how to make friends. I told her to make sure she didn't talk too much when she first got there. To make sure that she first made friends and then start her never-ending stories. But I learned about a week after she moved in that she did not listen to my advice. However, that didn't stop her from making friends because Elena was the type of person who could be friends with anyone. That's who Elena was. She had friends everywhere and was loved by countless people. One thing I now find really funny is that we had driven in the car together for years, for soccer games, school, vacations, or just everyday activities. Every time we were driving with music on in the car, Elena would sing at the top of her lungs. It drove me crazy because I was like, Elena, all I want to do is hear the song. But that didn't stop her. And then one day, she was in the Distinguished Young Women's Competition, and for her talent portion, Elena played the ukulele and sang. And all of a sudden, she busted out in this amazing voice, and I was shocked. After that, I felt a little bit bad about getting on her in the car. I never fully understood or appreciated how much I relied on Elena in my life. She's the person I go to when I want to laugh or sing. She's the first one I call with my news, whether it's bad or good, and the person who has been one of my sisters since the day I was born. I don't know what I will do without her beside us, but I know that she will always be with us in our hearts. I don't like to refer to Elena in the past tense because even though she isn't here physically, she's in our hearts and through every person who came here today. We want to thank all of you for coming and supporting the Housleys and celebrating Elena's amazing life. We love you, Elena.
Thank you, ladies. Was that milk and Cheez-Its, was it? Crazy. At this time, another one of the students, Bella Campbell, would like to say a few words. Bella?
Oh, there's so many of you here. Okay. Sorry, I'm already crying from everybody else's speeches. I'm heartbroken that we're all gathered here for Elena and not with her today. She was a ray of light in my life and many others. She always had a smile on her face, and I think the only time we ever disagreed on anything was in calculus when she knew her answer was right. When she tried to tell you a story, she would have to tell you at least 5 more stories to make sure you understood the one that she was trying to tell. She whispered so well that you couldn't understand a word that she was saying. I will miss seeing her at work, where she would distract me from actually working and tell me about the cute boy she just saw, or how a customer bought $500 worth of groceries and wouldn't pay the 10 cents for a bag. I will miss making her bread and cheese plates at work when we'd get free samples, and how she would always order me a mocha without her asking first. I will miss our That's What She Said competition that we tallied until we couldn't keep track anymore in Mr. Thomas's class. I will miss her laughing at her own jokes and at mine because we both knew they weren't actually funny, but we laughed anyways. Elena wouldn't want us to remember her for who she was and not for what happened. She'd want us to remember her emergency chips in her car, and how you should always ask her before touching her snacks. I think most of us have accidentally crossed that line. She'd want us to remember how she ate her Oreos, dipped and held in milk until she thought that they were ready to eat. She would want us to remember that she was a terrible dancer but didn't care, and that she could sing her way through everything. That books were as important to her as coffee bean. That she always had to keep her hands busy, whether it was playing games on her phone, braiding Maria's hair, or writing song lyrics down on paper. That chocolate was her favorite version of everything. But most importantly, she wanted us to remember that whenever she made fun of us, it meant that she loved us. Cho, you will forever be missed, and I still cannot imagine a life without you. Your kindness and giving heart has touched so many lives, and I love you so much, and I will forever be grateful that I had you as a friend. Your voice will live on, and I hope that wherever you are, it's filled with chocolate. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. Chocolate, yeah. Ooh, boy. At this time, Maria Makus, Elena's cousin. Could you speak, please?
Hi, everyone. This is my brother, Zach, and he was Elena's younger cousin, and he's just here to support me. Growing up with Elena, we didn't physically live close, but no time had passed whenever we'd see each other. And this might get me in trouble with the other cousins, but I felt the closest to Elena. We had a level of understanding for one another that binded us. When we were older, we started to share a love of English and for reading books and writing. We fell in love with characters like Gus from The Fault in Our Stars, Four from the Divergent series, and the dreamy Salvatore brothers from The Vampire Diaries. And as silly as those books were, the pages kept us together. Late at night, we would text and talk about books and how we would treat these fictional guys if they were real. The last couple of years, we started to talk more about real relationships and not just fictional ones. We weren't total nerds. But now, English and writing brings us together again as our family tries to cope with what's happening. I wrote a letter to Elena that I'd love to share with everyone, and I described one of my favorite memories with her. And I think this memory will just be so Elena for everyone. But aside from my memory with Elena, I'd love for you guys to listen to the message beyond my words. Thank you. To my brilliant and beautiful cousin, I remember us reading our fairy books. We were under a little tent in the sun at your house. I forget how old we were, but we were probably 6 or 7. And I remember I hated books. I absolutely loathed reading. And I asked you, Elena, why are we doing this? Can't we just play in the vineyard? And you looked at me with your straight, no-nonsense face, and you said, Rhea, how do you expect to become a better speller than me? Of course you were right, and with a pat on my face, I continued reading. At the time, you were a better speller than I was, despite that you were younger than me. And you knew I struggled with reading and writing, and yet your encouragement never ceased, even though I was embarrassed. And once I became a stronger reader and we grew, reading became our thing. Every Christmas together, we would rip through books like nobody's business. One Christmas, we read The Fault in Our Stars, bawling our eyes out whenever Hazel Grace would say okay, and Gus would respond with okay. But the book I'll remember us reading, and the Christmas I remember us reading it, will forever stay in my mind and memories. It was our last Christmas together, and the last book we had ever read together. The book was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And we flipped through the pages reading about Augie and his tenacity and bravery. Sorry. Now, after everything, I remember a quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer in the book. When given the choice between being right and being kind, choose kind. Elena, you were not always kind, and neither was I. God knows how many petty fights we got into. But Elena, I'm looking at a world without you, and I cannot fathom that I was not always kind to you. I wonder what would have happened if someone was kind to your killer. What if someone had looked him in the face that day and smiled? Would you be here now, and would we have our Christmas together, reading our books? Let your story serve as a reminder to the dark world we live in and the simply human people who live in it to be kind, to be generous, to be loving, and to never give up on one another. I could be angry, I could be gut-wrenching furious at the man who took your life. But what will that do? All I have is sadness, sadness for you and for him. You did not deserve the evil that fell upon you, and nor did he. And I urge the people reading this and listening to be more kind, to love people even when they are unlovable. The society we live in will never change if we do not choose kindness and love over ourselves and our selfish desires. My dear sweet Elena, you will live on in my heart, and we will live on as young girls in my memories. You will push me to be better and to be the best teacher and human I can be. Watch over our family and friends from heaven, and I will love them and everyone in this world with kindness. I love you, Elena, and I can't wait to see you again. Thank you.
Wise words, Maria. Thank you. We just have a couple more speakers, and this time I'm going to put someone on the spot. I'm going to ask you to come forward, Chief, and just say a few words. Chief was on scene that night. Chief, please, just a couple words.
Well, first of all, this is spontaneous. I had no idea I was going to speak. Thank you very much. I hope your registration's up to date on your car. Thank you. Thank you, sister. Take care of that. There are some benefits of being a cop besides donuts and the love of coffee. It moves my heart to be here with your community. Yes, I was on scene moments after it occurred, why it was still dynamic going on, why my partner was inside, why your beloved Elena was inside. And the words that you just spoke about kindness and rebuilding and looking a person in the eye that you walk out of a store, the clerk, somebody looking for mustard in a market. If every one of us in here just once a day looked at a perfect stranger and said hi. But I mean a real hi, just like look them in the eye. They're getting some cheesy Cheez-Its with their milk, okay? And at Pepperdine, the guy that's pushing the mower around that giant lawn along PCH, just stop, pull your car over, and walk up and say hi. And that can make a difference in the world. I think of so many times. One time I pulled a car over for running a stop sign, had the car. And this was the spirit of my partner, Ron. He did the same thing. And I pulled him over and I said, hey, if you'll drive around the block 4 times and stop and wave at me, I won't give you a ticket. She did. We embody that spirit as law enforcement right here with your public safety and your first responders here and all across the country. And it's not just the first responders. If we all love one another, we can stop this. We can stop that. This is not, I hear so many people saying this is the way of the future. No, it's not. Every one of you can say hello and be kind to someone. That's 365 people a year per person in here. And we can stop this. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And God bless all of you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, sir. Just 4 times around? 4 times. Maybe that'll work here in Napa. Just saying. This time, Elena's beloved family, Eric and Hannah and Alex, I'd like to say a few words.
Alaina Housley, as most of you know, was my sister, but I like to call her my second mom. There would be no other sister in the world that could replace her. Elena was a big help to my academic success, whether it was advice on projects or helping me with math homework that I really didn't get. Sometimes I would ask her for help, and then she would talk for a while, and all I would respond with was, uh-huh, or, okay. Although she talked a lot, she was a very good listener when she wanted to be. She would always want to know about the drama going on at my school, or who was dating who. I've heard all these things about her bragging about me, and it was hard to believe because I would get on her nerves so much by just knocking on her door and then hiding around the corner. Another thing I would do is eat her food, which I didn't know was hers, and then she would try to make me feel bad, even though I didn't know it was her food. If there was one thing I could have said to my sister before she left, it would be thank you for all you did for me. I couldn't have asked for a better sister. These next few weeks, months, and years are going to be difficult for many of us. A man I met in Los Angeles just last week said to tell stories. My task for all of you is to share stories about Elena with anyone, and it will truly help with all the grief. I would also like everyone to be kind to each other and spend time with your loved ones. My family and I really appreciate all the support that you guys have been providing. It is really cool to see all these strangers wishing the best to my family and I, as well as the little things like the JC soccer team wearing black tape over their wrists with Elena on it. Thank you.
Can only imagine how high she would have had to put it to speak. Oh my goodness. Your overflowing love and support are truly lifting us as we grieve the loss of our one and only Elena Maria. We are so grateful for all of you and quite proud of our Napa community. I didn't want to post this. I don't know how much you are all on social media, but I just haven't been able to post because I needed to see all of you and look at you and say, so you can see that and feel how much we love you all back. For me, your love and hugs and all of those stories will always, always fill me as we live on with Elena in our hearts. To me, Elena embodies Maya Angelou's poem, Phenomenal Woman. Not just in the intentional words, but in how she lived her 18 years of life with truth, love, conviction, courage, and an immovable drive. Only phenomenal Elena can create a beautiful sign with self-drawn images of all her passions: music, reading, soccer, tennis, television shows, friends, family, and with these words, Elena's room. Please knock before you come in. Gotta find my place. It would be greatly appreciated with a small disclaimer at the bottom saying, I'm probably reading, working, listening to music, ignoring you, etc. If you barge in, I will probably be annoyed. Despite that you'll deserve it, I apologize in advance. Who else can write a message where you can clearly hear her sass, hear the poignant annoyance, and yet lovingly apologizes in advance? She had this way of being truthful and loving all at the same time. Never malicious, just honest, as many of you guys have shared, and truly with the intention to help, maybe be a little funny also, but never hurt, never ever. Only phenomenal Elena can take her passion for music and work diligently to learn how to play the piano, violin, guitar, ukulele, and sing as beautiful as an angel. Her voice teacher at Pepperdine told us that in her last lesson that she stood tall, probably because she could hear my voice telling her to stand up straight, and singing with her whole heart, soul, and body. And she said, and what a glorious sound it was. Music will forever be Elena's voice, and it forever will remind me and inspire me of her and all that she was. And I get to hear it all the time through all of you. So thank you, and thank you, Elena, for giving that to us. Only phenomenal Elena with such heart and conviction can tell the longest stories ever told in the history of humankind. We've all experienced them, and with every story she told, she knew exactly what she was talking about. Her intelligence and awesome ability to learn was nothing short of extraordinary. She was the best of both Eric and I, and some of our not so best. So the long storytelling definitely came from me, but she truly was, and we will be able to hold on to that. As phenomenal as she was not perfect. That was never what she was striving for. She was Elena being Elena, finding the courage to live life to its fullest. She surrounded herself with people who would love and support her in every way. When she was faced with an obstacle not too long ago at Pepperdine, I sent her a verse from 1 Corinthians that said, "Be strong and immovable." I am such a proud mama to say she was so very strong and immovable. I am standing up here today knowing that she is saying that same thing to me now. I am going to be strong and immovable, Alaina Maria Housley, because you are my truest example to follow. I am so empowered by Elena's voice and love. And I love, love, love that you are all too. Celebrating Elena's life isn't for you to see that she was perfect. She wasn't. She felt all the feelings that you have all felt. Sadness, happiness, excitement, love, vulnerability. All feelings are meant to be felt. Follow Elena's voice and personally connect with everyone around you. Your family, your friends, your peers, strangers. Enjoy one another, help one another, be kind and loving, but also acknowledge when you need to lean on them in order to be strong and immovable. Give your love to everyone. You have so much of it to give because I feel it all the time, and it truly fills me.
All right, so, excuse me. Everybody's been asking me how strong I've been. I've been a freaking mess up here today, so thank you for all those words. And I've been telling everybody to stay off their phones, but that's where I saved my speech, so thanks. Couple of quick clarifications. Kelsey, all those little plays that you guys used to do that Elena thought of, we as parents suffered through every one of them. You guys would say, oh, we've got a play. We're like, oh, great. Luckily, we live in the Napa Valley and there's plenty of wine. So, oh, and Bella, the Cho thing kills me every time. It's so funny. Sorry. All right, so on Friday night, so 24 hours or close to that after we had found out about Elena's passing, I walked into the hotel room because this is how awesome it was. So we find out this about our daughter, and Pepperdine was amazing. They put us up in this huge home. It was beautiful. Everybody gave us anything we needed, and then they evacuated us from the fires in Malibu. So we're like, awesome. We were there for about 7 hours, I think. But so we ended up down in Santa Monica area, and I walked back into the hotel room, and Alex is getting ready for bed, and he looks up at me and he goes, Dad, I just finished my speech. And I'm like, what speech? Because I was a mess, and most of us were. And he's like, oh, I'm going to speak at Elena's funeral. And I'm like, all right, dude, you're 14. I don't know if I'm going to be able to speak at Elena's funeral, but I was very proud of the fact that he was even up for it. So very proud of him for doing that. So I don't know what got into me, but we gave Hannah a Motrin PM, and she finally got some sleep. She's snoring next to me, and I started typing on my phone. And this is what I wrote. I have not changed it since that time. It kind of flowed through me, kind of like it was Elena. And I apologize if it's not grammatically correct, or if there's something that doesn't seem right the way it comes off. I didn't want to change it. It's very raw of how I wrote it down that night. Hug your friends, even if they're of the same gender. It's okay to be gay because it's not gay. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be me. It's okay to be fat or skinny or short or tall. It's even okay to be bald, trust me. It's okay to own guns, but let's not use them on each other. It's okay to worship Allah, Buddha, Jesus, or whomever you choose. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be the same. Do your best at all times, even though sometimes your best may only be 50%. Do what is right when no one is looking. It'll all work out. Do not worry you aren't good enough. If you give your best and they aren't happy, then it's not meant to be. Do not blame others. You make your own destiny. Alaina Housley had a destiny to change the world. Her life may have ended, but her legacy will not die as long as I am alive. My daughter lived, laughed, and loved. She loved vintage, Pepperdine, her family, her friends. She loved old movies. She loved milk and musicals. She loved music, and as everybody's already said, chocolate, as long as it was dark. She loved to talk, watch friends, read, and read some more. She read more in one weekend than I did in my entire high school and college career combined. I'm a vintage grad. Sorry. We must love one another. We must respect our differences. We must appreciate that we are not the same. Example, if your only choice was always vanilla ice cream, then ice cream would not be that awesome. We must end senseless acts of violence because they are just that, senseless. We must believe the world is mostly good. We must know that every police officer is a brother or sister, friend, and family member. And while they are human and make mistakes, they show up to work knowing that they may have to put their life in the line. They are not allowed to give 50% at work, but you are. Respect the difficulty of the work that they do. Put your phone down and look out the window. Wait on that text message. It's not worth someone's life, including your own. Parents, talk to your children during dinner rather than have them think you feel your phone is more important than they are. Children, talk to your parents for the exact same reason. Take a break and just be in the present. A beautiful woman passed, as did 11 others in Thousand Oaks, in a senseless act of violence. If the shooter had mental support, would that have happened? What about Parkland, Las Vegas, or even Yountville? To the media, sadly, I personally remember 2 names from Columbine. I will not say those names today, but those are the only 2 names I remember, and they were the 2 shooters. Stop posting the name unless they are the victim. Stop celebritizing these people because it just gives them an idea of what to do next time around. To the government and our political officials, if you can cut off my live Facebook feed for playing Thriller at West Park Elementary School during a flash mob and silence it, then you can make sure postings of these types of senseless acts of violence are not shown. It's not censorship, it's the right thing to do. If we are all more supportive to one another, maybe in Elena's name, we can save one more life, stop one more shooting, help one more person to make this world a better place. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You may be seated. I am deeply appreciative of the Housley family. And my bratty boys grew up in the era of Adam and Eric. And I always appreciated Judy and Art, and they always won baseball games. We had 5 league. I was a coach, and they were coaching, and they always beat everybody. I'm still a little bitter about that, but I'll probably get over it. One thing about the Housley family is they are people of faith, and I must say that I was not always a man of faith. I grew up in a pretty ungodly environment, and I really thought that was the last place I'd ever find any kind of peace or fulfillment. But while I was in Vietnam, during the Vietnam era, I was in submarines. And I came to a place where I recognized there was someone a lot bigger than me. And I put my faith and trust in him. And one of the things that Eric stated that really impressed me, first of all, back up real quick, is that this whole concept that Eric and the family have had regarding Elena's voice, this thing of loving others and those kind of things, that didn't come from us. You were all created in his image. And you remember John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him would never perish, but have eternal life. So it's his idea, and so what the chief was saying, and all of us have been saying, is that we need to, when we leave him out of the picture, you get this kind of stuff. Believe me. And Eric said a couple of things. He didn't know I was listening, but I really care about him. And one day when I met with him to talk about this service and other things we were doing, he said to Hannah, he said, speaking of God, he said these words. He said, "He has a plan." That's what he said. And I was listening. And then the second short sentence that Eric said that I was really impressed with. I mean, it's hard to be impressed with Eric. But, I mean, just saying, Eric, just saying. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Okay. But we were gathering at the gravesite. And it was pretty tough. It was a beautiful day. It was a cool morning. Beautiful people. A lot of beautiful things have happened this week around this tragedy. I would call it divine beauty all around us, over and over again. But as I was kind of just helping gather them around and they were kind of getting seated, Eric said something that just stopped me. He said to his beloved wife, Hannah, he said, "She is not here." Their eternal perspective. And right at that moment, I realized, I know where she is. She's not in any pain right now. She's cool. She's all right. And I just want to thank you, Eric, and Hannah, for your perspective. Bless your hearts. You're good people. We are amazed at how strong you've been in the midst of your grief and your sorrow. We're all impressed. And your beautiful daughter, we all know that one of the major reasons that she is who she was is because of you. It's because of you and how you invested into her life. With that said, I've responded to quite a few national tragedies in our country, many mass shootings. But I also responded to Ground Zero 4 times. And one time, one full week, I attended firefighter funerals. That's the only reason I went, was to attend firefighter funerals. And at each funeral, Mayor Giuliani in those days, we'd be in these huge cathedrals. And Mayor Giuliani would invite the audience to stand up and give a roaring, standing ovation to that firefighter. And I'm going to ask you to do that right now for our beloved Elena. Please stand, give her a rounding ovation. Please remain standing. Up in the northwest end corner of Tulocay Cemetery, there's a headstone that I will never forget what's written on there, and this pertains to Elena and her voice that's been proclaimed, because Elena has changed our world in an amazing way. But on that headstone, it reads, "The song is over, but the melody lingers on." The song is over regarding Elena, but her melody and her voice continues to linger on. I'm just going to close with a word of prayer, and may our Heavenly Father forever bless the memory of this special Alaina Maria Housley. And after me, the Vintage Choir is going to sing a song. And I want to invite each of you to the reception that will take place in the little gym. There is much thanks to be given to Robin and all of her staff to put that reception together. And everyone that's done so many beautiful things this last week, you're just a champion. And so with that said, let me close our time of prayer. Thank you, Lord, for your goodness. Thank you again for this precious young girl, this beautiful lady, one that had a great love for her family, a great love for her community, a great love for her friends, and a love for you. And so, Father, bless Mom and Dad. Bless her brother. Thank you for her family. Thank you for this school and this community. Thank you again for our first responders who were there that night, diligently trying to save lives. Here in Napa, we ask your protection on our officers and our deputies and our firefighters and our EMTs and our dispatchers. Thank you for each one of them that sacrifice every day for the good of us. Thank you for this community, and thank you for your love for each of us. In your Son's precious name I pray. Amen. Please, Mark and the choir. Oh, Tim. You're welcome to exit this